Hi, I'm Craig Phillips, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build your own trough planters. I'm going to use reclaimed wood, large ones and medium sized ones. Now the tools I'm going to use is a compressor with a nail gun, because I've got a lot of work to do and I'm going to do lots of build. Now if you don't have one of them, don't worry, because of course you can use your cordless screwdriver with screws or the old fashioned way, panel pin nails and a hammer. The rest of the tools you're going to require is a belt sander, various different size screws, a chop saw, your cordless screwdriver we mentioned a moment ago, and a tape measure. Now before you start doing any builds, always make sure you do your own sketch and work out the sizes that you want for your trough. This particular one I've designed is going to be about 4 foot in length, because that's the size of the pallet wood that I managed to recycle. I'm going to create an angle area on the corners to give it a nice chamfering outlook. It's going to stand off the ground on these two solid feet, which will allow airflow to circle around the trough. Now once you've decided the size of your trough, transfer them measurements onto your drawing and you can start cutting a kit of parts. The materials I'm going to be using are reclaimed pallets. What we've done is we've started off with the skids like this, and of course the slats along the top. We've de-nailed all of them. We're going to cut them down later, and they're going to be the paneling for the outside edge of the trough. The frame itself is going to be the skids, because they're a lot thicker and stronger. So my length on there is going to be 920 millimeters. Mark that up on both of them. I'm going to chop them down with my chop saw. Of course, if you don't have a chop saw, you can use a hand saw. Don't forget to use your safety equipment. Okay, now I've got my length. These are going to be the actual inside frame like this along here. So what we do now is cut 2 more smaller pieces of this to create a frame like this. Now when we look at this, it's not a square frame, it's actually on an angle, and that's going to create this kind of triangle effect for my 2 sides on here. So this particular cut on here is not at a 90 degree, it's actually at a 15 degree angle on here. So I'll set my chop saw. So now that angle here is going to create this angle sticking out. And what I want to do now is fix these together and create an actual frame. So I drilled a couple of pilot holes in there, started to drive the 2 screws in. They're going to now fit right up against the flush edge of this section. One screw in, send that around so we can see. I'm going to be making that nice and flush now along that edge. Now we have one section half made up. We place the other piece directly over the top and we fix this into here. Using a 5mm drill piece there, and drill right the way through this timber as a full clearance hole. It allows the screws to go through a lot easier and bite into the next piece of timber. Now, as you can see, by screwing them in flush to this end, which is what we want, we've created our 15mm angle on here to create the chamfer shape that we want. What we've gained is a little bit of an upstand off the timber here. Now, we'll come back to that later on, because what I am going to do is actually plane just the edge of that all the way off to make it flush with that, but I'll do it further down the line once the rest of the frame is erected. So now we've got one side of the frame fixed together. You build a second one exactly the same, which is for the opposite side. Now what we need to do is fix these together with slats along here. Now you decide how wide that you want your troughs, and we're going to use the actual top of the pallet wood, and these basically are going to be fixed across here, holding the frame together. So using your thin slot timber, I'm going to cut my sides that are 350 millimeters wide. I'm going to start off by cutting a 15 mil angle again that we set off with. Now we've made that one cut at 15 degrees, we want to do the same cut but coming across from the opposite angle. So I'm going to spin it over. I'm going to mark the back of it 350, which is the width I want for my troughs. Set that back in. And as you can see, we're starting to get that chamfer down on the sides that we want for the side of the trough. I'm going to cut 2 of them at that size. Drill a couple of little pilot holes. Okay, so that's some clearance holes in my 2 top sections. I'm now going to fix these to my frame along here, following the 15-degree angle cut that we put on here. Apply a little bit of wood glue to add to the strength. Release that down. Couple of smaller screws now. One more in there. Now I bring my other section of the frame in. Make sure this is the right way. That's it. And again, following that angle cut we've put on here, that's where he wants to sit there. So small bit of wood glue. And both angles flush to that edge and also flush on the front of here. Third screw in there, be nice and tight. Now that holds them two together, create our shape. Let me get one of my other cuts and fit it to the opposite end. Okay, so now you can start to see the shape of the trough coming together. We've got our side frames made up, we've got them fixed together with our slats just at the top sides. The next section we have to do now is cut more slats continuing down, and of course these are going to get smaller as they go. And place them up along here, get a measurement, still cutting them of course at our 15-degree angle. That's now working out about 305 millimeters. That once you've cut your first angle, you can offer that right up, flush on one end here. We mark it here and here. However, we have to mark it the opposite side of the timber for the chop saw if we don't want to reset the angle on here. So we transfer that level to the back of the wood, now place it in and cut it. Perfect. Like the rest of them, a little bit of glue on them, and then they can be screwed in to here. Just going to put 2 in the ones below on both sides. And of course you repeat this all the way down to the bottom, do the exact same on the opposite side, and then we can start cutting the side panels. Okay, that's the last side piece cut on there at a 15-degree angle and fitted to the side, and of course on the both sides. Now we've got these long edges here. So again, we're going to use our tops of the pallet wood. I'm just going to take a measurement from here, top to bottom, which is 340 millimeters. This time we're going to cut these completely square. So now I've cut the one on there, I'm going to cut a kit apart, probably about 12 each side. Right, that pile should be enough. What I'm going to do is fix one to one end, nice and flush. I'm going to fix the other to the opposite end, nice and flush. And then I'm going to actually lay these out, just dry, butt up to one another. The reason being is, as you can see, some of these are different widths themselves. They've come from a variety of different old pallets that I pulled apart and denailed. And when we place these all along, what you might find is they do butt up nicely, and your last one on the end fits in perfect. But what you might find is you've got a gap of about this much, and what you don't really want to do is have to cut a slither down and place that in. It won't look very well. So we start off with our one fitted nice and flush that end, and fitted nice and flush that end. And then if we have to space each one of these out 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, and have a little small gap in between them, it really won't matter. And that way we get rid of that kind of 30 or 40 millimeters gap, and we don't have to cut a slither down to fix on. Now, fixing these wise, I am going to apply my glue all the way along each slat that I put in place. This one on for added strength. But because we're fitting a lot of them on, probably about 12 each side, I'm actually going to use my compressor and my nailer. And remember, if you don't have one of these at home, you can continue using screws in there, little small screws, or you can actually use some panel pins with a lost head and hammer them in with your hammer, and they'll still look great. As you can see, just as I predicted, that little small slither that we don't want in there. So again, we can shuffle around, maybe find a wider piece, swap it for the thinner piece. And likewise with that one, looks a bit thinner. And now that gap gets even smaller again. But if we just pull that, allowing a millimeter, another mil, 2 mil, there we go. We've more or less now got an equal gap in between each and every one of them. So plenty of glue along the top, and then where it hits this top piece of timber, and plenty of glue along the bottom, and then nail away. Okay, so that is one side completed, the long length, all the slats nailed into position with a small gap in between it. I'm going to do the exact same on the opposite side. Okay, so that's now all four sides has got the slats fitted to. We've got the whole shape and the frame. What we need to do now, inside here, we can see we've got a bottom, but we've got this frame area here which is a lip on. So I'm going to now measure that and cut more slats to actually fit in between there. Now these are going to be only 220 millimeters wide, so I've got plenty of offcuts of pallet wood. I'll start cutting some of these down. Double check they fit in there okay. That's how they're going to sit along the bottom. So just like the sides, we're going to put a line of glue all the way across the frame, sit these into position and then nail gun them down. Okay, so that's now the base firmly fixed down on the bottom. Plenty of nice little gaps in there to let the air flow through and of course to stop it filling up with water. Now, mentioned earlier about these, the frame section standing proud a little bit here because we tilted it on that 15-degree angle, remember. Our next stage is what we see on the top of here. I'm putting basically a trim right the way along the top, again using the skids that we've used for the frame. That's going to sit on there and I'm going to miter the corners at 45s. However, I need to take that lip off or else this is going to sit on an angle as well, and I don't really want that on the actual top. So I'm going to use a planer. I'm going to mark a little pencil line there, just about 5 millimeters down off the one edge, just to give me a bit of a guide how deep I want to go. Just checking to see that we've completely denailed this, as the last thing you want to do is run into any metal nails with your blade. Perfect. That's now nice and square at the top. I'm just going to get a piece of the skids and just see if he sits nice and flush on the end of here now for me. Yeah, that's perfect. Yep, great. Now the next stage is I'm going to get 4 more of these to go right the way around the top, and I'm going to miter the corners at 45 so they meet together nice and snug. I'm going to leave a hangover here of about 20 millimeters all the way around the frame. So I need to take my measurement of the full length, which is 1 meter and 10 centimeters. Adding 20 millimeters on both ends is 1 meter and 50 millimeters. That's our 2 longest sides, both cut at 45. We line them up, just getting our 20 millimeters hangover that we suggested. And if we're happy with them hanging over a 20 mil, we can then work out our size for the 2 final top cuts, 250. That's got my miter both sides, 250 in the centre. He should fit nice and snug in between here and in between here. giving a really nice finish on there. Do the exact same for the opposite end, then I can glue them. I'm going to fix them into place with the nailing gun just so they're steady, and I know I've got my corners married up well. And then I'm going to screw some longer screws in there, really just to hold them down nice and strong. Now they're glued and they're placed into position, I'm just going to offer these cuts up the corners and making sure they're nice and snug. It's also wise, if you have got a nail, or if not, using a screw, actually shooting one through the side and just keeping them joints nice and square. So now that top rim is tacked into position, I'm going to drill some clearance holes and apply some screws deep through there into the frame. Once that glue's dry, it'll be nice and tight then. Perfect. So that is our main structure now complete. Frame in position, all the slats all the way around and in the centre of the bottom, and the top rim fixed up, mited, pinned and screwed down. The next stage is to create a couple of little feet underneath just to raise it off the ground. And for the feet, I'm also going to use the skids that we use for the frame as well. I've cut this oversized, so when we slide it under the bottom here, it's hanging out probably about 60 or 70 millimeters from the both sides. Now, I've set my chop saw at 45 degree again. What I'm going to do is just cut the corner off this. Now by taking that corner off, when we slide this underneath, leaving our overhang of about 60 mil, we've created a nice little shoe for the base of your trough. What you could do, if you prefer, is cut it the same as that and then actually round the edge off with a belt sander. Just simply clamp it down, belt sand the sharp cut off there, and that gives you then a more softer edge, but the choice is yours. Either way, you must fix these to the bottom of the frame. So we'll spin him over. This one's cut, making sure the cuts are on the underside, stepping them in probably about 7 inches on there, 180 mil. We can fix them now to the bottom. So they do need to be screwed in, making sure we've got an equal overhang. Yep, I'll drill some clearance holes, nice long screws all the way through so it catches the base of the frame. You want 4 in there, 2 in each side. And the same for the opposite end. Okay, so that is your trough now complete with both shoes on. Now of course you can build your trough any size you want, from smaller ones, medium size to large ones. If you are making a large one, the inside frame you're probably not going to be able to use pallet wood. You'll have to buy some tannalized 3x2 timber and it will be perfect. If you want to give this a more smooth effect, of course you could sand this off on the front or leave it a rustic effect like that. But being outside, it probably wants treatment on it. You can apply a clear treatment on there, which is going to penetrate through and protect it from the weather. If you sand it down, you could wax it or you could even paint it. The choice is yours. Hopefully you've been inspired by this video and want to do it yourself. But if you want to see more how-to videos, please visit the website silverlinetools.com.